Hey everybody, welcome to InPsightRadio. I am your host, Danielle Egnew, and you are a fly on the wall to everywhere. How are you? I hope you had an amazing holiday season, whether it was Christmas or Hanukkah or any other of the many, many holidays that some are still going on right now. I hope it was fabulous. Now, I've been feeling really called to my family, right? And I hope that you are called to your family and friends, especially during the end of 2020. It's been so tough. And I really felt like my staff was probably called to their families too. So I gave everybody that Christmas week off so they could just be with folks and really just enjoy the quality of their friends and family and their life. Because many of us had a really non-traditional Christmas this year or holiday season, not being able to get together with friends and family, which for me was bizarre. I mean, we did meet with folks just in small groups. You know, we had my parents, my two parents over here in Montana. Then we waited a while and then, went to a family get together out of town where there was just a few people. And we really did not have the giant Italian gatherings that we normally do, which was a freaking trip. If you're me, that's something that I grew up with, were these huge gatherings. So it was really bizarre, not to have that going on. Yet I really felt that it was important for people to be able to connect with their friends and family and just be with their people, be with their tribes at this point in life. I really, really, really think that's important, especially as we come to the close of 2020. This obviously has been a crap show dumpster fire of a year, and we are coming up on 2021. So today's podcast is actually in substitution for a live forum that I do every year at Bar John's in Billings, Montana. And it's a year-end forum where I actually do a prediction for the upcoming year. I do a 2021 prediction forum. And this year, of course, we're not doing that because of COVID-19. It's simply not safe for people, especially here in Montana. Our numbers have been pretty off the hook, so we're making sure to stay in. However, today's podcast is all about what we can look forward to in 2021 here at the very end of December. And I am looking forward to letting all of you know what we can look forward to in 2021. So let's get started. First of all, 2021 was shown to me in October of 2020 to be the year of birth. Not rebirth, but birth. And many of us think, well, okay, we're going to bring something new into the world. Great. Yet it's really important that I break down the concept of birth that these angels gave to me. And usually it's about October where I receive information for the following year. The year of birth is big. And for those of you that have had kids, you know what a big deal it is to birth something into the world. I mean, you are quite literally growing something in your body. So it's a sacrifice of the flesh to birth something into the world. You are giving resources to that child that you're growing in your womb. And this is something that people don't think about a lot of times. If you're not the mom of a baby, you don't really think about the fact that if that baby was anything besides a human that you were hoping would be in your womb, we would consider that living, growing organism as a parasite. We would, because it's literally robbing the body. It's taking resources from the body. It's robbing the body of minerals and calcium and blood and proteins and tissue. And it's growing itself. And of course, that's what babies are supposed to do. Yet, if you think about it, that really extracts a great deal out of a person to grow a baby. That's why moms have morning sickness and women feel tired. And, granted, a lot of women really enjoy this process, yet it's a lot of work to have a baby. I mean, you don't just get pregnant and poof, there comes a baby. So when we're talking about the year of birth, we're also talking about a year where we are personally giving of our own flesh. Now, obviously, birthing is the process of, having the baby come through the birth canal. We're expelling that being that we grew. And it takes about 9 months to grow a baby, right? Give or take a few. So if we look at 2020 as the gestation year, the year of morning sickness, the year of not feeling well, the year of moodiness and weirdo cravings and not feeling good about your body, and all the things that we went through with 2020. If we look at 2020 in this regard, then as far as like growing a baby, right? Then 2020 begins to make a lot more sense in a lot more ways, especially when we are looking ahead and seeing 2021 as the year that we're actually birthing the creation that we've spent all of 2020 growing, okay? Now, the year of birth is intense because we've had the year of rebirth, we've had the year of reconstruction, we've had the year of construction, everything in our 9-year ascension cycle, which actually completed itself. Let's not forget, it completed itself on really this year, on 2020. It was the nine cycle. And 2020 was the year of evolution. And it was the year of you can't fake it till you make it. You just got to be real and you are enough. And all of these crazy messages that sounded wildly inspiring at the top of 2020. But now when you look in hindsight to it, it's like, oh my God, the angels were literally setting us up for a year of deep emotional excavation in 2020. When I did the 2019 forum. And I had put out a meme last year that was just, it was just kind of a cool memory of what we could look forward to, or a snapshot actually, it wasn't a memory yet. It was a snapshot of the future. So when we look at 2021's year of birth, first of all, you got to remember we've been growing something in us all year for that particular birthing, which is to happen in 2021. And if you just do the numerology on 2021, that comes out to a 5, which is change, evolution. I mean, it's not even evolution, it's change. It's transformation. So the year of birth, all right? So look at this year as growing all of the big intense emotions and clearing out old emotional data and getting ready to bring something brand new in. And then let's talk about that process really quickly before we get to the birthing part. Because really, when we're talking about birthing, we are talking also and growing a baby. If you're pregnant, you are preparing to bring that baby into the world. I mean, you're generally putting together a nursery, or you're buying clothes, or you're having showers, or you're making preparation because your life is going to change indefinitely forever, and you're never going to be able to go back. Okay? I mean, for all you dads out there, you know this cycle. You're nervous. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to be a dad. Here it comes. And you're making all of these incredible changes because you know your life is going to be changed forever. So I want you to look at 2021 in the same way. 2020, we've been pregnant, we've been growing something, we've been sick, morning sick, everything's been awful. We're trying to evolve to the next phase of us. We're doing the best we can. And then in that moment, we go ahead and move forward to the birthing process. So if you think about what we do when we're preparing for a baby, a lot of times you sell stuff, right? You get rid of that, I had this great pool table, but I haven't used it in 5 years and I could really use that money for a crib. And sometimes it's bittersweet, right? I mean, I've never personally had a baby, yet I have been besties with people who have, and I have watched this process. Or maybe dad has been hanging on to a vintage Mustang for years that's been just stuck under a cloth in the garage. And he's realizing, man, I'm going to need a play space for these twins coming and blah. And it's bittersweet that dad sells the Mustang and gets a bunch of money and prepares for something new that's coming into his life, right? And it sucks when you're doing that. You're watching the Mustang go out the door. You're thinking, oh God, I'm never going to have a Mustang again. You're thinking, I'm not even that person anymore who had that Mustang. What's happening to me? I'm losing my individuality. Well, look at everything we went through in 2020. I know a lot of people who felt like they lost their sense of self through 2020 because they couldn't do what they normally did, like travel and put on concerts. Heck, I had a hard time. Good Lord, 2/3 of the way through 2020, I was a bawling mess. I was in my bathroom sobbing and drinking tequila, and my poor wife is in the bathroom, and she's saying to me, honey, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm okay. I think maybe I'm not okay. I don't know. But it was really hard for me to swallow the fact that I couldn't do what I normally did to connect with people. So, there were parts of my own life I had to put on hold and put on the shelf and just tuck away because I literally had nowhere to put them and I needed to prepare some other areas of my life. Okay. So, in ways I was the dad selling the Mustang and saying, well, there goes that dream or there goes that cool collectible because I've got to make space in my life for other things. And you may have noticed that space making in 2020 took the place of people also. I know a lot of folks in 2020, a lot of people who got divorced, whose marital issues that have been hanging around in the ethers for years and years could no longer be swept under the carpet because you're stuck in a house with your partner day in and day out. There's nowhere to go. You can't just run to the bar and pretend nothing's wrong at home. I mean, you're just stuck there. So it's terrible. I don't mean to laugh. I just think about the irony of how much emotional excavation that many of us have done in 2020. And if you think about being pregnant, most people, sometimes being pregnant is a complete and total accident. Oftentimes it is. Yet for those who are planning for that pregnancy, then there's a lot of thought that goes in about how many friends am I going to lose? Who's going to stay with me in my friends group once I have a kid? Once I'm not able to go to all you can eat and drink martini night because I've got a baby at home and the baby needs tending to. Who's going to stick around by me? I noticed a lot of people in 2020, a lot of change out in friend groups for people. And it was really interesting to watch how human beings dealt with the fear of the unknown. A lot of people just kind of hunkered down, and some people were able to hunker down with their spouses and their loved ones and their friends and family. Other people were by themselves. There were other people who were by themselves that got really, really angry with people who had partners, that they weren't reaching out more or doing more with them. I watched a complete and total collapse, in my opinion. And I'm sure this in $1.82 will get you a cup of coffee at Denny's, but this is my opinion on this. I watched an utter collapse in the metaphysical community with people who were running around claiming that we could all just vibrate this virus out of the planet because they were lonely and they were unhappy with their daily routines being interrupted. And they wanted to go back to the big forums and they wanted to go back to the big tours. And I mean, I have a number of friends that live out of state, out of Montana, that I was noticing were starting these movements of, we're going to just vibrate COVID away, take your mask off, blah, blah, blah. And whether a person believes that they can get rid of a disease through high resonation or not, when you have a global pandemic, in order to vibrate the world or raise the vibration enough in the world to get rid of a virus that's all over the world, you've got to have a lot of participants for that because you've got about, almost 8 billion people and their consciousness passing around a bug. So I was really shocked to see so many people in the metaphysical community coming out and acting like none of this was actually happening. And there's a lot of people that I lost as friends because they asked me to repost, take your mask off, don't live in fear stuff. And my stepmom is a doctor, okay? And she was explaining to me about these COVID cases and what she was seeing out in Seattle early on when this was hitting the whole country. And I literally lost, I'm not kidding you, I lost friends because I declined in reposting this, take your mask off, we can all vibrate this out of our lives and don't live in fear. I declined to pass on that information. And I received a ton of hateful mail from people who are like, you're a fraud, you're a phony, obviously your angels aren't real, because if they were, you would know that you walk in, and the weirdest combinations of things, like you walk in the light of God and the blood of Christ, and Isis is protecting you, and Odin walks with you, and I'm like, oh my God, are you going to tell me the lucky rabbit's foot shoved up my ass is going to help me too? I mean, it just got so stupid, right? I couldn't believe it. So I watched people panic over the fact that I did not share their opinion on, say, the mask issue. And I wasn't out there ranking on anybody who didn't have my belief system. I just didn't want to adopt their belief system. That was it, And I just didn't post it. And then the person would keep emailing me and saying, I'm seeing you're not posting this. And are you a faithless spirit worker? And oh my God, I felt like I was getting hit up by a new church in town to go to the service. It was cray in 2020 with the metaphysical community. And again, believe whatever you want, ride whatever unicorn you want. Yet, don't expect me to ride your unicorn with you. That's all I got to say about that. So it was very startling to me to see these peace, love, and harmony namaste people become so violent and resentful and angry that I actually was choosing to pay attention for me to science and the pandemic and talking to these angels. And they're like, yep, it's a virus. Yep, it's killing people. I'm like, oh my God. So the reason I bring this up is because through that process, my goodness, I can't tell you how many people that I considered dear friends really just stopped talking to me because I would not jump on the no mask bandwagon with them. And again, I didn't criticize them for that belief system. I just didn't publicize it for them, in essence. So, when we talk about 2021's year of birth, it's very important to think about the clearing of space that we need to have in order to bring in something new. And just like we talked about new parents preparing a room, whether it's two moms, two dads, a mom and a dad, two non-binary folks, whatever it is, it doesn't matter because the cumulative group of parents are preparing a space to receive a new life. And sometimes that means gutting a room. And that might be taking up all the old carpet and painting it and making it clean and making sure there's not, the one cat that you rescued when you first got married and peed all over the wall. Maybe it's ripping the sheetrock out and putting some new, sheetrock in. And, obviously the cat's been rehomed a long time ago. So it's about making clean new space. And one of the things, I found so fascinating about 2020 is that people made their own space by vacating, and I'll just use myself as an example. I have many, many friends this is true for. I'll just use myself. People made space in my life by removing themselves and then getting really resentful and angry at me that I wasn't chasing them down and begging them back. And I'm like, what is going on with everybody? But what was going on was people's response to trauma. People really had a hard time with this pandemic. They had a hard time with the separation from one another. And I'm very blessed to have a beautiful wife and daughter. And I'm very blessed that we all get along and enjoy hanging out together. And I watched other friends of mine, not just me, but other friends of mine, in addition to me, just become targets of people's rage and jealousy and anger because they didn't have that in their life. And my heart was just breaking for these folks. Breaking. Because, how awful must your life be that instead of being happy for somebody else, you're just twisted sideways by it, So when you think about birthing something into the world, and you think about if you're a parent, I've known people who have gone to have children and other friends of theirs who maybe are having a difficult time having kids get very angry and jealous and don't want to be around them anymore because they're bringing in something new to the world that those folks wish they could bring in. It's a human response to grieve. So in 2020, I noticed a lot of grieving. I noticed a lot of denial. I noticed a lot of escapism. Pretty much a lot of it in the metaphysical community, which again kind of surprised me, because I always thought the metaphysical folks were a little more in tune with physics and science, and that apparently may or may not be true. Yet when we talk about the year of birth, we're talking about a lot of preparatory time in 2020 that has to take place before 2021, the 5-year, can actually bring in change or transformation. And there's a lot of prep room, like tearing down the sheetrock, tearing out the carpet. Maybe there's friends who fall away. Maybe there's new friends that come in because they love to build a room, or they're really excited for you that you're birthing something new. But this was really a time frame to allow that which no longer serves us to just fall away and just tuck it in its little 9-eye bed and let it go to sleep, because that is what we're supposed to be doing. And the friends of mine that I still consider friends, even though they don't talk to me anymore and are all grumpy and stuff, yet I still consider them friends who are experiencing trauma. And I sort of expect that someday they'll kind of snap out of that and I'll hear from them and all will be right in the world. I don't take that stuff personally when I see people struggling to that degree. That's grief. And they're just making me the face of their grief, or whomever else they're making the face of their grief or their fear. And because I'm not jumping on the bandwagon of, I don't believe this is a real disease or real illness, that scares them because I'm not agreeing with them. So it makes them angry, and they don't want to be around people who it might instill fear that there's not a shared belief there. So when we think about the year of birth, we first must acknowledge the amount of clearing that's happened. And it's been phenomenal. It was kind of surprising at first, yet once I stepped back and recognized how people were channeling their grief, it began to make more sense. With the, let's just vibrate this and go back to normal. Let's just cleanse the earth with light and go back to normal. And I remember thinking to myself as I would see these posts, I'd be thinking, we're not supposed to go back to normal. That 2020 has not been normal at all. It's the year of evolution. We're supposed to go forward. So when we focus on 2021's year of birth, what are we looking at? Well, I will tell you, if folks have really, really spent 2020 running away from the heavy lifting that is out there in their life, if they've spent time avoiding that heavy lifting, this is going to be a particularly difficult time for them, because 2021 is going to come by and say, well, yeah, you can't phone it in anymore. 2020 was, of course, the year where you really couldn't fake it till you make it. That was gone in 2020. And if you think about it, it's true. I mean, how are you supposed to bluff from your couch on Zoom? That's a little hard. So everything was brought down to this incredible sense of authenticity in 2020 going into 2021. So 2021's year of birth is about accepting yourself for who you are. Okay? And this is going to sound a little hardcore, but it's not. It's super freeing. So just go with me here on this one. It's going to be about accepting who you are for what you are. Not who you were hoping you would be, not who you were hoping you could make yourself into, yet honestly, just who you are. And this means that we may be having to look at resentments in ourselves and jealousies in ourselves and anger in ourselves, and this is definitely 2021 is not the year at all to compare yourself to anybody else. So if you've been feeling a need to compare yourself to a fellow colleague or another artist or another worker or your spouse or your siblings, don't do it in 2021. Because you're supposed to be birthing who you are into the world. We've had 2020 for all the comparison in the world, okay? When you birth you into the world, this means that you are aware of all of your shadows. All of your shadows. Now, what's a shadow? We kind of know what that is. We kind of don't. Shadows are the icky parts of ourselves, or parts that we consider icky. They're not actually icky. They're teachers. Yet they're parts of ourselves that maybe we're embarrassed about. Maybe aren't so shiny and fabulous. Maybe they're the parts of ourselves that cause other people to stumble while we're figuring out who we are. Okay, are you following here? These are our shadows. There are traits that we're not so proud of. Maybe we secretly eat in the middle of the night, or maybe you're like me and you have a very difficult time with the sense of time. So you're trying not to be late to everything. Maybe there's a million things. Maybe you really struggle with spending money, and maybe the only serotonin rush you could get through 2020 was ordering stuff online and spending that money. I mean, whatever your deal is, we all have shadows. Maybe when we were younger, we lied about all sorts of stuff to get ahead in our career. And as we grew older, we dropped off with that lying, fake it till you make it crap. I remember growing up in entertainment and as a female in the music industry, my God, and you'd have some club owner ask, how many clubs have you played? And you'd lie. You'd flat out lie. You'd be like, oh yeah, I played 40 million clubs and 2 of them were on Mars and 1 was on the moon. And because that was the name of the game back in the old world, and you'd bluff your way in, and then you'd show them how fabulous legitimately you were. And then you would have work, or people used to pad resumes. Oh, I've worked here and I've done that. And maybe I swept floors at NASA, but I'm just going to say I was a hallway coordinator at NASA, whatever. We've all done it at some point in our life. Being raised in a shame-based environment, being raised in the 20th century, it literally taught you how to lie. It taught news, taught you how to spin something. And so 2021 is not the spin time. It's not the lie time. Neither was 2020, really. However, it's the time to just get to know your shadows and forgive yourself for the person that you've had to be to survive a very violent, sociopathic, bullying, narcissistic world. Self-forgiveness is so important in this time frame as we go into 2021's year of birth. It is so important. And what I think is so fascinating is that why is this important, right? Self-forgiveness. Because a lot of us had to do crap we had to do just to get by. As my dear friend Holly would say, Holly Shaver, you can find her on Facebook under In the Light of Cancer. She's 3 years and I think 6 months or 2 months past a diagnosis of terminal cancer that they gave her 6 months to maybe a year with, because she changed her diet. She got rid of salt and sugar and fats and went completely vegan, cut out all oils, and starved the cancer out of her, killed the cancer. They had her on her deathbed. But as Holly would say, and you might remember Holly Shaver's name from Pope Jane, okay? I played in Pope Jane with Holly for years and years, the bass player. However, she has a great saying, and her saying is, sometimes you have to make the best wrong decision that you can. Because sometimes that's all you've got is crap-ass decisions in front of you, and you just have to punt. You got to Hail Mary it and hope for the best and hope you can make a course correction. And especially in the old world, pre-2012, especially in the old world, there was a lot of that navigating spin and lies and shame and just weirdness in business alone, And this is why a lot of our Gen Zs and our millennials will look at many folks, Gen X and above, like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? Just be authentic. And, to the credit of a lot of Gen X and baby boomers who brought, millennials and Gen Zs and Gen Ys into the world. We were over the shame culture. We were over it. And we didn't want to deal with it anymore. So we really worked hard to raise kids who were authentic in who they were. Yet they can turn right around and look at these generations which were taught to lie. Are you being abused by your husband? No, I just walked into a door 45 times and mashed my face in. Are you on food stamps? Oh, I've just been on a diet for 100 years and I've lost thousands of pounds. I mean, we were so shame-based in the old world, right? So when I talk about 2021's year of birth and dealing with our shadows, for some, it's going to be not that big of a deal. For others, it's huge. It's admitting where we dropped the ball on ourselves. And let me tell you, the old world loved to blame everybody for our failures. Back in the old world in the 50s, if a husband was doing poorly at work, it was his wife's fault because she didn't feed him good enough food at the dinner table and perhaps was not executing her wifely duties in the bedroom in a timely fashion. It was never the guy's fault. It was always the wife's fault because she wasn't doing something right to support her man. I mean, that's a 1950s example, yet we can think about examples like that all the way up through the old world. So when we talk about 2021's year of birth and cleaning out a space and getting real with ourselves, this is a big deal, okay? We've got to acknowledge in ourselves and quit bullcrapping ourselves why we haven't reached certain zeniths in our life. I know many, many people, especially women. Oh, women. Oh my God, ladies. We got to clean this up with our gender, I tell you. And men who lean into the feminine energies, who can get into this dysfunctional form of the feminine that I'm about to talk about. I see so many women just seethe in jealousy of one another. And that's insane. Women, we are powerful. We are scary powerful. We've scared history so badly, they stuck our coochies in cranky, pokey chastity belts. I mean, we scared everybody so badly with our power, our innate spiritual being, our sexy essence, our wow, that they tied us to stakes and burned us so that our light would not shine onto the dark crevices of the inner workings of people's insecurities. I mean, ladies, we are powerful. So why are we sitting around piss-fitting at one another being jealous? Well, she has a career and I would have had that career if people just would notice how amazing I am too. And I think the only reason that they notice she's amazing is because maybe she has cleaner skin than I do. Or maybe her boobs are bigger or she's flirting with the right person. But I know that's why she's getting ahead. Girls, don't make me slap you silly. Don't make me slap it out of you. I slap it clean out of you. I slap you. I will. Right in the heart. Because ladies, if we come out of this place of weird competition with one another and realize that if one of our sisters is excelling, women, what do we love to do when we're not being catty? What do we love to do? We love to celebrate each other's successes. And listen, girls, I'm not saying you can't have a moment where you're a little bit, envious, or maybe you feel crappy for 5 minutes, or maybe you and a dear friend work at the same place and you were going from the same promotion and your friend got it and you're super happy for her. But at the same time, your little inner 5-year-old is like, why didn't I get picked for the kickball team? Oh, it's okay to have those feelings, girls. Yet, let's get out of the jealousy, okay, and the resentment. Because what do we do, girls? It's easy for women to disempower ourselves. Now, going into 2021's year of birth, what do you got to be, ladies, to birth a baby? Well, you can't be a wussy, can you? You are pushing something the size of a cantaloupe out a teeny-weeny little entrance, okay? So that takes a little grit. Takes a little fortitude, girls, right? Doesn't it? Now, I've never done it because apparently I don't have that much grit or fortitude, but I've known ladies to do it. And girls, we're tough is what I'm saying to you, ladies. We're strong. We've got crazy pain tolerances. We're kind of superheroes. So why would a superhero get petty and jealous of another person? You know why? Because women, we feel like we are not seen. And we have thousands of years of programming in our DNA about how we're not seen. We're standing behind our man. We're being told to shut up. We have to be support staff. We have DNA, ladies, that tell us to shut the hell up and sit down. That's literally in our DNA. at this point in Western culture. Now, maybe not in other parts of the world, maybe not in the rainforest where Western culture hasn't imprinted this weirdness. However, if we're going to go into 2021's year of birth, we've got to get gritty with ourselves to stop falling prey to a genetic response to try to eliminate competition, be catty with one another, decide someone else is the problem and has something that we wish we had. And instead, ladies, we got to band together in 2021. Now, we've been trying to with 2020's hashtag #MeToo. We've been trying to, and I think we're on the right path. Not only do we have to band together with each other, ladies, for 2021's year of birth, we got to help our fellas out. Because our fellas are also out of balance coming from this old world. And the idea, gentlemen, I want you to know something about yourselves. I get to talk to angels all day long about the makeup of different genders, chemically, brain-wise, socialization, the whole 9 yards. It's really interesting. And if we are enculturated as a female or enculturated as a male, there are different hiccups and hangups that come out of that, right? So obviously I'm not a male. Yet I've been talking to the angels for a long time about what it's like to be a dude. And the super cliff notes are, ladies, that, we hear a lot about the masculine ego or the male ego and how, don't shake the male ego. It's fragile. Actually, men are really strong. We have just decided to make them operate only on one aspect of their chi, which is the masculine. God forbid you operate on the feminine, men. Oh, Lord. But there's so much strength of purpose and character in the feminine. Yeah, when we're busy telling our guys for 2,000, 3,000 years, don't act like a wussy. And guys are defaulting and trying to pay attention to only half of their chi, that they're yang, and ignoring the yin. There's no way to truly be secure. There's no way to truly be strong. So you're operating on half a pin here. Something's up. You're faking it till you make it, and therefore that causes insecurity, which goes to the, quote, male ego. But gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, you are way stronger than you ever thought you were. You guys are freaking superheroes, and I am rooting for you. I am rooting for the integration of your masculine and feminine. I think you guys are amazing, and I am rooting for you because there is no fragile male ego in the balanced masculine. There just isn't. Just like there's in the balanced feminine, there's not that jealous, catty, well, I would have this if she just wouldn't have me. How come I'm not seeing me? Ladies, if we have the feminine balanced in us, we have that masculine that comes along and says, you kick ass. What are you worrying about? Go have a beer. You're fine. And we're fine. So 2021's year of birth is also about birthing in your whole self. And this is why I was referring to dealing with your shadows. We all have them. We're people. Somewhere in our shoe, in the sole of our shoe, is some creepy gum that we accidentally stuck like up there in our treads when we were walking around and didn't even know we stepped on it. And we're just tracking gum all over the place. So when we go into 2021's year of birth, it's important to accept our shadows. Know they're there. Don't pretend they're not there. For some people, that's horrible rage. For some people, it's anger that's so tremendous because they feel they've been overlooked or they haven't been loved for themselves. And oftentimes, when they feel they haven't been loved for themselves, it's because they've withheld love from themselves. Because it wasn't modeled for them to be loved. So their little inner child is saying, there's something wrong with you, right? And that's just so untrue. We are perfect. We're perfect vessels from a perfect creation. And we're learning some tough lessons. So sometimes we kind of boff it in our lessons. Yet what I would tell you here is 2021 going into it, make aware yourself of your shadows. Now, this doesn't mean to accept your shadows, doesn't mean to not try to release them or try to work on those issues that created the shadows. Of course, we have to work on issues that are sticking in our craw. Otherwise, we choke for the rest of our life. And that's just inconvenient. So If you're somebody who's been struggling with a consistent workout or weight, just be honest with yourself about it. You won't burst into flames. You're not going to turn into a pillar of salt and blow away. If you're somebody who is unhappy with where your career is, yet good gosh darn and well, maybe there's a few things you've been doing that haven't really added to stability in the career realm. Stop blaming everybody else. Just own it. It's okay. It's okay that maybe you were afraid to completely dedicate to yourself. Because what if you completely dedicate to yourself and you still fail? What if you give it your all? What if you throw 1,000% of yourself and all of your life savings and everything into your dream and you still fail? What do you have left then? For so many people, the fear of ultimate failure and the fear of believing in themselves only to find out it was all a fraud once they get into themselves prevents them from ever going forward to try to achieve the natural greatness that they've been instilled with. And that just breaks my heart. I watch people limit themselves every dang day. And I've limited myself. And in certain ways, I continue to limit myself. And I am making peace with some of my shadows. I've got some health and wellness shadows, more so about consistent workouts. Now, that sounds like not very big of a deal. I'm not talking about a pant size. Although right now, can I tell you, COVID, sitting there eating, I have gone up 2 pant sizes, gang. And I'm sharing this with you because it's a human moment. Because it's true. And I'm like, wow, okay, I got to get back into the gym and move. A little because I'm vain, but more so because my body doesn't feel right. So one of my shadows is I move so much energy on a daily basis doing all this channeling that I feel like I've had a workout, even though I haven't had a workout. And to a degree, that's true. But to another degree, it's just not true. So we've got to make peace with our shadows. And gentlemen, if you're bitter and angry because you haven't made enough money and all these things again, let's stop blaming people. Let's just get into our shadows. Let's understand why we've limited ourselves. There's a reason for it. Now, then you move on to the second part of getting ready to birth something. You got to forgive yourself for that. You got to forgive yourself for why you protected yourself in the first place. I know a lot of people who survived extremely abusive childhoods. And they are very terrified of intimacy and they're very terrified of losing their independence because they feel that they're the only person they can count on. Now, when we don't let other people in, when we choose not to allow people to love us and take care of us, or we choose to substitute surface level sex for really deep emotional connection, we still feel empty. But that emptiness is the devil we know. God forbid we actually meet somebody and fall crazy in love. And then what if they leave us? Then we'll be devastated, So you've got to forgive yourself for trying to protect yourself. And you don't have to go confess to every single person you were jealous of that you were jealous of them. You don't have to confess you don't have to get on a podcast and say, I'm up 2 pant sizes. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to have a conversation with yourself about it. Because that's making acknowledgement and kind of making friends with your shadow. Because that shadow is part of you. It's trying to teach you about you. Just like being pregnant teaches you a lot. Apparently, I've talked to my pregnant friends. It teaches you a lot about being you. So before we go into the year of birth, there's a lot of prep work that has to be done. And a lot of that prep work was already done in 2020 for most people. And I have a massive amount of empathy for the people who just didn't want to do that work and thought they could kind of skirt around it and run away from it and just chase and flee and do all the things people do, or just deny things were happening altogether. That's interesting. Rock on. Yet in order to go into the year of birth, we must get ourselves to a place where we are ready to be the steward of another life. That's what being a parent is. It's the steward of another life. And you may be noticing that there is a big part of being a steward of another life that happens when we are working with our life path. Because in order to birth something, our life is going to change completely. You probably have noticed the stock markets are up and then they're down and they're up and then they're down and they're wiggling all around. And are we going to have a stimulus? Aren't we going to have a stimulus? What's going to happen? Yet a lot of people this year have lost money categorically. A lot of people have invested money this year and made a lot of money after the stock market tanked and came back again. So regardless of what financial system that you're in, we are going to be building a new earth. We're going to be building a new world. In the United States of America, we just elected a new president and vice president who is appointing people in cabinet positions that have never been appointed before. Now, obviously, these folks still need to be agreed upon by Congress and put into place and confirmed. Yet, Deb Haaland, who is the first Native American person, the first indigenous person to this continent, to actually be named in a presidential cabinet. That's embarrassing and weird. Yet she is a House of Representatives person, and she was just nominated. That's who Biden wants to be the Secretary of the Interior. And if you don't know what the Secretary of the Interior does, they deal with our mountains, our streams, our lands. Who better to deal with our mountains, our streams, and our lands than the people who never actually divorced themselves from those things in the first place? There's an idea. So, really. So we've got all of these folks coming in. Pete Buttigieg, who has been recommended or nominated to be the department, I believe it's transportation. He is the first openly gay cabinet member ever. And there's folks of all kinds of folks, African American folks, Latin American folks, Indian American folks. There are, regular good old American white folks, men, women, a nice diverse cabinet to go into this year of birth. Because our country is changing, gang. And I know this is really super scary for a lot of people out there, yet it shouldn't frighten anyone. Because the very tenets of this country, the United States is based upon evolution. We cannot have a USA if it stays stagnant. That's part of why it's the USA. It's supposed to change and go do amazing things, right? So in the year of birth, we are going to be bringing in massive new systems. We are going to be bringing in massive, way less sociopathic ways of doing business. Now, obviously, that's not all going to flip overnight. We've got a lot of old world consciousness that we're still dealing with. And obviously, when we're talking about money and finances, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about a great deal of investment that the old world has put into controlling people through the illusion of having things or not having things. And so in part one of this podcast, I'm talking about the bedrock of what's necessary to go into the year of birth. And what we're needing to clean up in these last few days of 2021 and maybe the first week of 2020 and maybe the first week of 2021 going in there. We really are looking at moving into a birthing period where everything is going to change. And in order to do that, we've got to go into acceptance that everything is going to change. And this is not about Democrats, gang. So if there's anybody out there that's still subscribing to the old world political partisanship, I understand that that's nearly a religion for many people, and I respect that is. However, that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about an energy that is presenting itself going into the year of birth that's going to be necessary for us to be able to go forward and create this new earth. And with 2020's year of evolution, what a crazy time frame. Oh my God. Our current president, Donald Trump, has expedited the evolution of America by probably 15 years in 4 years. And someday we're going to look back on this, and history will remember Mr. Trump for his accomplishments and for the things that he did that were super sketchy. It's going to remember all of it. And we will see this as a turning period to where we recognize that if we do not evolve, the country will collapse. And really, people may like Donald Trump, they may not like Donald Trump, yet without that gentleman's participation with who he is in that role, we wouldn't have skipped 15 years ahead in the time frame. And why did we skip ahead? Well, because we need to band together in order to deal with some climate issues that are going to be really, really roaring between really the later part of 2021 into 2022, all the way till about 2025, 27. So we've got to get our poop in a group, because to birth means to accept that your life is never going to be the same again. It's to get over your personal crap. And I know that's hard. I know it is, because our crap is what we've known for most of our life. It doesn't mean you have to get over it tomorrow. Okay? It just means that if you can be kind to yourself about it, if you can laugh with your shadows, if you can say, God, I created you to protect me when I was 12 years old, and you're still with me when I'm 65. I probably don't need you as a teacher anymore. Let me let you go, shadow. And thank you so much for sticking around well past the time frame that I needed you. We're going to be able to create a new, clean, fresh space in 2021. And if you're somebody listening to the podcast that is really struggling with identity through this time frame, and I know a lot of people are, like I said, I had my tequila in the bathroom moment. I was like, what is going on? I get it, okay? Yet what I would tell you is that if you feel like you are dying, and this is a really interesting phenomenon that I've encountered with numerous clients over 2020, going into 2021's year of birth, if you feel like you are dying, I mean on the vine, you can't see where your life is headed, you can't see what your life purpose is, you have no idea what you're going to do for money, your usual tricks and tips aren't working, your usual blames of this person or that person for why you're not more fabulous, that's not even helping you. You still feel like a bucket of poo in your head. If you're going through all of these struggles and you feel like, well, I guess I'm just going to die, you're probably not going to die. What's happening is that you are being positioned to birth into the next version of you. And how the heck would you know what that's going to feel like? Because you've never been that person. You've never been that person. You've never been you to come. So it's going to feel unfamiliar. And I mean, honestly, I had a person who called, and in their reading, this individual was sure they were going to die because they no longer could feel a sense of purpose in their family, their job, with their spouse. They didn't want to be married anymore. They had really crazy interests in weirdo areas that I thought they were cool. They thought they were weird. And this person said, I think I must have some kind of an illness and I'm going to die. I said, no, you are ready to be born. You're ready to be born into a brand new life that, yes, is going to call on all of the experience that you have always had in your life, yet the fullness of you gets to come forward in 2021's year of birth. The fullness of you gets to come forward. The fullness. And I'll tell you, that's pretty scary for most of us because the old world told us not to be whole. The old world broke us apart in shame and trapped us in categories of restriction and wanted us to remain there or to buy our way out with a new car or a fancy trip or 6 affairs on the side of our marriage. It dangled things to reach for in order for us to be whole. That's what the old world did. And it stuck a price tag on every one of those things. The new world isn't going to do that. The new world is not going to provide an outlet where you can buy yourself into feeling better. Now we're going to try because we're Americans. Oh my God. We're going to try. We're going to try to eat those 16 quarts of ice cream to make our brain chemistry hop touch. We're going to try to go pick up 19 people at the bar and have crazy monkey meaningless sex to get our serotonin level up for 5 seconds. We're going to try to go spend our life savings on some crazy idea or some crazy one thing that makes us feel high as a kite and get our serotonin levels up for a second. But long term, the new world is going to hold up that purchase to you or those extra inches around your waistline or whatever it is. It's going to hold them up to you and say, wow. Oh, yeah, that really didn't make you feel better, did it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're feeling kind of pasty now, aren't you? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that. Oh, yeah. And we won't be able to buy our spin like we did in the old world. Won't be enough tequila in any bathroom to make you feel better, okay? That is 2021's year of birth. And why is that? Why is that? Well, think about a baby coming to the world, being born. You are literally going to be born again if you let yourself in 2021. Now, what does that sound like? You must be born again to enter the kingdom of heaven. Sound a little churchy, doesn't it? Churchy! It does. And the fact is, Jesus was a very interesting master teacher. Because if you look at the Christian Bible, and I say the Christian Bible because there's other Bibles out there. If you look at the Christian Bible and you look at the teachings of this master spirit teacher, Jesus, it's really amazing because a lot of the teachings got watered down and weirded out through translation of the High Greek into conversational Greek, and it got weird. And a great example of that is the phrase, through me, only will you get to the Father. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And through me, people take that very literally. Like, well, do I carve a hole in Jesus and put a door there and walk right through? But really, if you look at the word through, and I'll save the whole word breakdown here. I'm such a nerd with this stuff. But basically, it means to act in the same way of, like through the example of. I am the way. And it's like, do what I'm doing and it'll make you feel better. Give selflessly. It'll make you feel better. Do miracles. Change water into wine. You'll see you can do anything. But that kind of got manipulated and got weird. And the reason I'm bringing up the Jesus consciousness is the born again. Until you are born again, be born again into the Spirit of God, said Jesus, or whatever Jesus said. We really don't know because all those words were translated and written down at least 99 years after the guy died, but this is what the Bible says, right? And what is it to be reborn? Well, that master teacher, that master spirit teacher, Jesus, is talking about giving away your old crap and subscribing to a system of love and stewardship and consistency with one another where we can forgive ourselves, we can forgive other people, we can work together to achieve a common goal. We can love our streams and our trees as much as we love ourselves. We can see the world as a whole being and not just me, and more about me and my fabulous me. And that requires a new life. And so, you hear a lot of these, especially evangelical Christian organizations, a new life, born again. And I'm not trying to get all creepy preachy on you. I'm saying, isn't it interesting that even the master teacher Jesus talked about leaving behind and reconciling the old self and not forgetting about it, but just making peace with it so we can go forward and do kick-ass stuff. I mean, that's the whole point, right? In the year of 2021, the year of birth, it's about birthing us into the world, the whole you, all of you. None of us are perfect. We'll all have fears. Mostly, I think most all of us will, unless we hit that Jesus Yoda space, who knows, until we die. That's okay. Yet be okay with the fact that you're a human being. And if you step in it and make a mistake, apologize. And if you've been treating somebody poorly because you're angry or secretly resentful of them or jealous of them or making them the reason your life isn't going forward, you don't even have to tell them you've been doing it. Just stop doing it. Just stop. And start loving yourself instead. And start believing in yourself instead. Because in part 2 of this podcast, I'm going to talk all about what we can expect in 2021's year of birth. What can we expect there? What are we looking at predictively? Now that we've really got the foundation and the bedrock out of the way, what is 2021 going to look like? What's our money going to look like? What's our sociology going to look like? What's our country in America going to look like? What's the world going to look like? Oh, yeah. All of that yummy, chewy stuff in part 2 of 2021, the year of birth. So this is a lot to chew on today. And from now till the end of this year, just go ahead and kind of chew on that, because to get to the really good, chewy, ooey gooey center of the predictive stuff in our next podcast, in part 2, you kind of have to clean up on aisle 9 on podcast part 1. That's a big part of achieving part 2. So love yourself, forgive other people who are just doing the best. We are all just doing the best we can right now, gang. Everybody's just babies. We're all just trying so hard. And just love people, love yourself, love one another, uplift one another. And we're going to get through this. I will see you next podcast.